Seeley first to introduce your guests. You have to unmute yourself.
Okay, this morning, I don't see, not sure if Danny Eakins from the Ohio Department of Veterans Services made it, but he is planning to be here.
I'm here, Dwight.
There he is. Tom Clevin with our Assistant District Governor, excuse me. And Skylar Burgess is going to be speaking with Dave and I this morning, and he's our guest. Skylar has been working with us on the Veterans Project and is an employee of Deloitte.
Thank you, Dwight. Susan West, do you have a guest?
I do. This morning, I've invited Sandra Husenfeld to our meeting today. Good morning, Sandra. Thanks for joining us. Sandra is with Best Version Media. She's a member of my networking group, and she's been to a couple of our in-person Rotary meetings, but she definitely wanted to hear about the presentation today. So thank you so much for joining us, Sandra.
Thank you,
Excellent.
Susan.
Do we have any other guests here today? Just unmute yourself and speak up if you're a guest or if you have a guest. Okay, well, welcome all of our guests, and please come back to as many of our Friday morning meetings as you would like. We meet every Friday on this Zoom channel at 7:45 a.m. Announcements. I have one announcement that I want to update everybody. A lot of you took the survey that I sent out regarding in-person meetings at MVCC. I will publish the final results of that survey out to everyone through email. But as of the last time I looked at it, we had a little over 40 respondents, and the gist of it was about 75% of our members are content to continue with Zoom only for the time being. About 25% would like to return to in-person meetings. So with that in mind, I am working with Calvin, and we are trying to figure out how we can possibly do one dual format meeting per month for the next several months. As a way to give people the ability to have the in-person experience who want it, but we don't have enough people who want to do in-person to do that every week at this point. So more to come on that, and you'll be hearing from me more about that. Do we have any other announcements? I think Roberta may have an announcement for us today.
Yeah, sorry, I'm here.
Okay.
Yeah, we are going to be going back to collecting toiletries, and David Bentz has offered his front porch as a collection box. So he said he would leave it out this weekend, but it would be good if everyone could drop toiletries for the Dublin Food Pantry off this week. So if David, you don't mind setting it out for the whole week, that would be great. Okay.
Yeah, I will set the box out on the front porch, and anybody that wants to swing by and drop something in there is welcome to. I will email out my address so that you'll have that.
Yeah. I'll send out the notice.
Okay. Do we have any other announcements this morning? Okay. Is Julie Rinaldi on?
Yes, I am.
Okay, I think you had something to discuss with us today.
Yes, good morning, everybody. Thanks, Dave. I was asked to just let everybody know that there's a countywide issue on the ballot this on November 3rd. The Franklin County Alcohol, Drug, and Mental Health Board, which is the ADAMH board, is the countywide entity that funds mental health and substance abuse treatment and prevention services in the county, and they have a nonpartisan ballot on the issue on the ballot. It's issue 24, and they're asking for a 5-year 2.2 mil renewal with a 0.65 increase. And so what that means, and it'll be collected started in 2022. And what that means is it'll be about $1.90 per month additional if the increase gets passed per month for a property owner. If you all are aware that we're in the midst of continuing to be in the midst of a suicide and opiate epidemic. So we are continuing to struggle to meet the needs of folks in the county. So whatever you can do to support this issue, we would really appreciate it. Our agency, Centero, receives a considerable amount of funding from the levy, and about $500,000 of that is for services that we're providing on behalf of the Dublin City Schools every year. So we are able to provide suicide prevention programming and other programming in the schools in partnership with the school district. So just asking for your support, and wanted to make you aware that the issue's on the ballot, issue 24. So thank you for your support.
Thank you, Julie. That's really important. Everyone, please vote yes to issue 24 on November 3rd. Calvin, would you like to introduce our speakers for today?
Yes, thank you, David. This morning we have our veterans program, and we have 3 speakers, 2 of which are our famous Rotarians. And Dwight has asked me to read the bios on all 3 people individually, and then he will take the presentation from that point and work through the program. So Dwight Seeley has over 30 years of employee benefit management experience in a variety of industries, including professional services, healthcare, insurance, and manufacturing. He established the Sequin Midwest Business Health Fund in 2015 after leading an effort with the Ohio Department of Insurance involving chambers of commerce across Ohio and other interested parties to rewrite the Ohio Revised Code to include chamber plans and other types of employer collectives to qualify under the code to offer self-insured health insurance plans to small businesses. Our second presenter will be our own very famous David Williamson. David has had a career that provided a wealth of leadership and administrative experience. He attended The Ohio University and graduated as a commissioned second lieutenant in the United States Air Force, serving on active duty for 28 years and completing service with the rank of colonel. He specialized in military planning, training, administration, operations as a Minuteman combat crew commander in both the underground and airborne systems. Our third presenter will be J. Skylar Burgess. He is the managing director of strategic clients for Duluth. Over 35 years of experience in consulting, sales management, and business development. Proven experience in consulting with CXOs of Fortune 500 companies. Responsible for hiring, training, and directing geographical diverse sales organizations with a history of revenue and profit margin growth. Dwight, the program is yours.
Thanks, Calvin. Well, you can tell by the bios that, our heavy hitter is definitely Skylar Burgess. So I'm going to share my screen and jump into this right away because we've got a lot of slides I'd like to cover with you. I'll try not to go into too much detail and give you a high level, view of what Dave and Skylar and I and many others have been up to. So let me see about sharing the screen here. Screen 2. Everybody see that okay?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So to get started, Skylar, Dave, and I are going to share with you the work that's been done on the evolution of the Freedom Station concept, which the Veterans Affairs Committee, led by Dave Williamson, supported with oversight and financial support since it was introduced back in 2018. In the fall of 2018, the Veterans Affairs Committee sponsored a visit to our club meeting by a gentleman by the name of Colonel Vic Tambone from the San Diego Freedom Station, which is a series of small houses clustered together in San Diego, helping veterans who need help transitioning from the military to civilian life. And Colonel Tambone advised us to focus on the unique needs of the Ohio veterans, as they may be different than the community in San Diego, and we took that to heart. Veterans Affairs Committee member Dave McKee then introduced us to the Ohio Department of Veterans Services through Sandra Piskarczyk-McKee, who introduced us then to Danny Eakins, who is attending our meeting this morning. Hi, Danny. Danny and Sandra put us in touch with a number of VSOs and individuals to understand the Ohio veterans' needs and how they might be served best in the areas of housing, transition to civilian careers, and ongoing medical care for those suffering from PTSD and/or physical challenges due to injuries sustained while serving. What we learned was that the landscape is covered with VSOs here in Ohio, and that many are successful at providing a service that's needed. And yet what we heard was that many have limited success and limited resources and limited visibility for those veterans in need.
Dwight, we don't have the slides.
I haven't moved it yet.
Okay, that's why.
No, we don't see the slide at all, Dwight.
You don't see the slide at all?
No,
No.
you're back on your folder. There we go. Thanks.
Sorry,
I still don't have them.
you still don't have it?
Nope.
It says in
The rest of us can see it.
It's
There
there.
we are.
Okay, all right. Okay, where was I? So fast forward to fall of 2019. Skylar Burgess, board member of Resurrecting Lives, founded by Dr. Chris Ann Gordon here in Dublin, agreed to work with us and suggested that we engage the Fisher College of Business MBA Business Lab to help us better understand the needs and develop a business plan based on those needs. So what we'll present today is the result of that work. Dave, Skylar, and I want to emphasize that support at the District 6690 and club levels within the district is essential to moving forward with any plans that we would put forth today. Before I launch into the presentation, I do want to recognize the Veteran Affairs Committee of Dublin AM for their support and the work of our grad student team as well. They call themselves the Grateful Eight. So with that, here's the table of contents that we will run through today: executive summary, understanding the VSO landscape, etc. I'll be referring back to this so that you know where we are in the presentation as we move forward. From an executive summary perspective, a 10,000-foot view of how the project was approached, there were 4 different steps that were contemplated. One was defining, the other was recruiting, hosting, and building. Defining is understanding the needs, recruiting, boosting awareness, hosting, plan and execute a symposium, which I'll go into in more detail later on, and build or establish a brick and mortar location. So now let's understand a little bit about the VSO landscape. We'll start with the landscape by doing a roundtable of the people that were that the team talked to, and know that this is a sample of the folks that actually Dave, Skylar, and I, and Danny Eakins, and Sandra, and actually a number of other folks had been talking with over the last 18 months. So we got a lot of input and received and gave the team a lot of input and received that we had received firsthand through our work prior to getting them involved. So we'll start with Danny. Danny with the Department of Veterans Services provided invaluable insight, highlighted and solidified what a brick and mortar organization could and should look like. Many VSOs are run out of someone's home, and a big barrier to keeping the VSO running is workable space. And this is where the shared workspace idea was identified as a critical element of the need. Pete Klein then with Vet Motorsports focused on accessibility and convenience and brought up some risks such as competition for the same charitable dollar, So how the VSOs navigate the competition is going to be important. A big question, if you build it, will they come? So there needs to be much communication with the VSO community and commitments before moving forward with anything as related to this project. Also, the need to establish a virtual workspace needs to be taken into consideration as well. And those were that's, you know, what I'm giving you is a summary of what each individual has contributed to this, along with others. Kim Tapia with Bunker Labs focused a lot on the need to better coordinate the services that already exist and are available, not only for the veteran, but for their families as well. She also stressed the need for partnerships with the private sector and said that those partnerships needed to come first prior to involving government. Kim's a strong supporter of web services for veterans, felt that brick and mortar was probably years away. Brian McGowan and the group wanted to, and we encouraged them to reach out to other organizations who were similar to what we were trying to do. So they talked with the Northeast Ohio veterans, very supportive of events to bring different VSOs together. And they said that they had some success with that. Zane Jones with the City of Columbus chimed in as well. He provided a good look into what is happening in Columbus right now. He spoke about how there are some events where VSOs get together and talk, but there are not many dedicated events, which is where the idea for the symposium that I'll talk about was born. He emphasized that there's a general lack of coordination among VSOs, which was a recurring theme that all of us had heard almost at every conversation that we had. Jeff Mers with the Air National Guard emphasized the need to listen to the voice of the veteran and reinforce the lack of connection between the VSOs and the ability for veterans to connect with those VSOs. So the consensus of the people and the students that we and the students spoke with was that the Rotary brand and Rotarian connections within the community are what can make a difference in successfully creating a go-to place for the veterans and the VSOs. So moving along, let's just spend a couple minutes on who's a Central Ohio veteran. Primarily men between the ages of 34 and 75. 70% of those are over the age of 55, and a large portion of the veterans reside in Delaware, Fairfield, and Franklin counties, and many of them are from the Vietnam and Gulf War eras. The older the veteran population is, the lower the unemployment rate is. Over the age of 45, it's about 3.2%. The needs of the Central Ohio veteran are a bit more advanced, given that 72% have high school diplomas or GEDs, and about 20% have some kind of advanced degree. Where the opportunity exists is to provide better advanced education and technology fields, for example. How to access current benefits continues to be a challenge, so education and connecting to resources who can help them take advantage of those inherent benefits continues to be the key, as does connecting them with the proper VSO. A snapshot of the Central Ohio VSO landscape. Looking at the landscape and the Central Ohio VSO community, the reason we're focusing in on the 3 counties mentioned is that's where the concentration of the veteran population resides. These are the areas, these are the areas that they do well: employment, housing, and healthcare. What we've learned is that to improve the services offered to veterans, there might be a pragmatic approach to combining efforts where redundant services are offered, enabling the VSOs to focus on the veteran they can best support. Everyone can't be everything to everyone, and we want to make sure that we are doing our best to help the VSOs focus on who they can serve the best, and that comes from developing impactful and results-driven partnerships without losing their identity and creating a same goal mentality among the VSOs through collaboration and cooperation. So what we learned, there's a need for a centralized community. The veterans are very important to this process. So in order for the VSOs to navigate this community effectively, they do need to understand the veterans' voices. Unfortunately, many of the VSOs do have a veterans presence, either as founders, working on the staff, or serving on boards. There was a lot of agreement among those we spoke with over the last 18 months that people want a network, a community, and a place to work and to gather and to collaborate. And lastly, for Rotary's role, creating and promoting a brand will be important to getting the community interested. And then if things progress, there does seem to be consensus that there's a need within the VSO community for a centralized workplace of some sort. So let's start with defining the brand. As far as, and you'll see why this is important, and many of you probably already know. Defining the brand is introducing VetWorks. What is VetWorks? I got a little bit ahead of myself here. Defining the brand, introducing VetWorks. Yeah. So what is VetWorks? Well, we thought we would start by identifying what VetWorks is through mission, vision, and putting some marketing strategic objectives together. And as you can see, our mission is to unite the Greater Columbus Veteran Service Organizations with the focus of improving collaboration, sharing capabilities, fostering communication to best serve local veterans in need. And our vision then is to build a network of VSOs, veterans, and volunteers that extends throughout Columbus and results in a long-term economic and societal impact. With our efforts, we hope to establish a facility that allows these parties to connect, collaborate, and share capabilities within the network. And as you can see, we have driving interest in the VSO community as a marketing strategic objective, along with making the network known and heard through shared communications and turning VetWorks into its own network. The logo, by the way, should include, let me see something here. Yeah. And there's our logo. Probably should include some aspect of Rotary, but we didn't go that far yet because we knew that there probably would be some other people wanting to be involved in how we use the logo. So right now it just looks like this as VetWorks Ohio. The value proposition you see here is geared toward recruiting VSO members to become a part of VetWorks Ohio. We envision a future where you don't have to jump through hoops. And we're talking to the VSOs here to get your projects off the ground. And then we identify underneath there 3 bullet points about the network of people, information, and resources to help that nonprofit, a yearly symposium where veterans and VSOs, business leaders can come together, and a physical hub to fulfill work and business functions. There's also a SWOT analysis that we did, which I won't go into here, but we have that in order to help guide our efforts. Member recruitment is important, and you know, again, the question is, if you build it, will they come? We've developed a survey which is designed to build on our initial research and better understand the needs and desires of the VSO community. The survey will build a baseline, background information, identify interest in the symposium and a brick and mortar location, as well as how best to communicate with VSOs moving forward, which is also another continuing theme that we've heard in discussing this with them, is how to reach the audience, the veterans. The results of the survey will be used to drive the outreach depending on what the VSOs are looking for. So, you know, what preferred communication is, what developing a strong online presence to go for the VSOs to go gather information, to connect, having someone maintain relevant social media networks, then getting out in the community, connecting with the VSOs, and going to events and sharing what we are doing to bring people in. Again, this is where Rotary and the network that is District 6690 is so important in our outreach efforts, both for survey administration and then the actions to follow. Because the idea is obviously that we would take that information out to the community to build our case for support. Oh, the survey is developed. I won't go into it here, it's too lengthy and detailed, but the survey is developed probably some tweaks, we could get it out, not too distant future. So we've talked about defining the brand. We've talked about member recruitment. Now let's jump into the hosting the Rotary District 6690 VetWorks Symposium. I'm looking at the time here. It's 8:12. We're in good shape. We would want this symposium, which I'll go into here, to be sponsored by District 6690, as well as other business partners. The pitch for the symposium is to get together where where VSOs, veterans, and sponsors can all come together in one location, share information, share resources, have breakout sessions where they can discuss needs in the community and how they can help each other. And that theme of helping each other will continue throughout. Here's a snapshot of the symposium value proposition. You can see we've got the veteran service organizations, the sponsors, the veterans themselves, and then integration synergies. So for the VSOs, it's about education, collaboration, and access to specialized services. For the sponsors, it's visibility, tax breaks. For veterans, the symposium can be a central location for them to learn about what's available to them in the community for services, employment, other services. They can join a central registry for future communication assistance, which is another issue that we heard as a recurring theme in talking with the VSOs and the veterans. And then lastly, it's all about the integration synergies that for the VSOs, the sponsors looking to support the veterans, and the veterans themselves. It also puts vet work at the front of the collaboration aspect that we are trying to promote. So brief, I'll try to be brief on this. There's a lot of information here. This is a sample schedule for the symposium contemplated. The symposium would be a 3-day event. Days 1 and 2 would be for the VSOs primarily and corporate partners. And the third day would include the veterans. There are similar type events in Ohio, and yet what's unique about this design is that the first day is basically breakout sessions to talk about where corporate partners and VSOs can get together to talk about the needs in the community and share best practices. The focus of the second day would be then on VSO education. And in looking at other similar types of symposiums, which the team did, none really provided the education piece for the VSOs. We are blessed in Central Ohio to have a number of educational institutions, and many have expertise in the nonprofit sector. So we could partner with an Ohio State or any of the other institutions, for example, where they would provide professors to train the VSOs to help bring them to the next level as part of the symposium. There would be also professional services assistance offered at the end of days 1 and 2 for the VSOs to get together with the corporate partners and the service providers to help them with some of their needs in the areas of accounting, legal, etc. And also note that we have planned in this schedule keynote speakers each day. Rotarian kicking off the first. There's a snapshot conference day 1, 2, and 3 that we look at keynote all 3 days. First day being a Rotarian, second day being a VSO leader, and the third day being a veteran superstar, because that day we would bring the veterans into the conference. That would be a big focus for day 3. And we would expect too that in a practical manner, speaking, the keynote speakers would help us with attendance. So that's a snapshot of the symposium. Let's talk a little bit about brick and mortar. What we're contemplating here is a membership-driven model, which would include shared office space, rentable event space, and meeting space. There are a number of different ways to structure the model, 3 of which are outlined here with advantages and disadvantages to each. There's the free, which relies heavily on partnerships and donations. There's a flat fee with annual and monthly fees, and then there's a tiered approach here, where organizations pay a different amount based on what services they would like to access. And there are advantages and disadvantages to each of these, and all of those we would want to vet as we move forward. We do have a first draft financial pro forma that outlines estimated operational expenses for startup and year 2 of a brick and mortar facility, as well as fundraising targets. Now, we use the word build here. I want to point out that, you know, we certainly don't anticipate breaking ground for something like this. There are plenty of spaces in Central Ohio that we can use. So establish is probably a better term. Rough estimates would put year 1 and 2 combined expenses at around $500,000. I think that's low. We have a bit more work to do in a financial analysis. But obviously there would be ongoing expenses to be determined. And, you know, a good benchmark approach would be to make sure that there's enough funding to allow for an operation like this to continue to operate with no donations or outside revenue for 2 years, in case things like pandemics occur. So we did also put together KPIs and targets. So we've thought through, you know, how to be successful and how do we measure that. In summary, we've got 3 main strategic objectives and performance indicators attached to each, all of which will need to be fine-tuned. And yet they represent a good start for a successful outcome. That's building the brand, hosting the symposium event, and building the brick and mortar location. And I want to point out too that the symposium event wouldn't be a one and done. This would be an annual event that we would hope would gain momentum and participation as it realizes success year to year. Well, we had a timeline back in April. Obviously, the years will need to change. Just wanted you to see that we have at least put together a Gantt chart here to help us see what needs to be done when. All of this, you know, devil's in the details, so we have work to do to determine, you know, all of the steps involved. But this is a high-level view of the time involved. So with that, I'll ask Dave and Skylar to add what they'd like to add. We did throw in some next steps, which we're currently working on here as well. Establishing a 501c3, which we are in the process of identifying some legal help to accomplish that. We would seek support for District 6690 Veterans Affairs Committee. Club level education and outreach would be very important as a next step, as well as modifying and implementing the timeline and action steps as we move forward. Thank you, and we appreciate your continued support. Dave, did you want to add anything, or Skylar?
Just to let everybody know that the Veterans Affairs Committee has been actively involved with Dwight from the very beginning, from his role as president of the club, through sitting down and meeting with all the agencies he talked about, as well as with the Rotary organization with Steve Heiser and Tom and the group. And our goal is, as Dwight has mentioned, is to take advantage of the availability of Rotary clubs that are spread currently throughout Central Ohio area, and use that as an outreach chain of communication. So it just an automatic, it flows very nicely with clubs, making sure that we reach out into the communities where the veterans exist. And we have figured that through Rotary, which was present in so many of these communities, that we would have a better effort of getting the word out to start the project and to move the project along when we have the detailed involvement of our local Rotary clubs. So I think as it stands right now, Steve Heiser and I will be meeting to talk about as Dwight mentioned, the potential of establishing a Veterans Affairs Committee at district level, and then promulgating that throughout each of the clubs. So we have a ready-made chain of communication to serve the veterans and get the information out.
Yeah, Dwight and Dave, this is Skylar. The only thing I would add is, again, just an extreme thank you to Ohio State and the Fisher School with the MBA program. They did a lot of heavy lifting on this. We spent a lot of time with them, giving them guidance and feedback, but they did all the legwork to make this thing happen. So thanks again to them for the effort that went into this presentation today.
So with that, I guess we'll open it up to questions. I would like to thank Dave and Skylar personally for all the support that they've been, and really this is a collective effort here, and I do appreciate working with these guys. All right.
It's very annoying, and it's such a nervous habit. Quiet. You're on the mic.
Now, should I stop share here, Dave?
Your nails are on the mic too.
Yeah, if you stop sharing, then everybody can see the speaker.
Hey guys, I have a question. How are you going to, or are you planning on addressing the veteran needs outside of Central Ohio in the district? Because the district is so spread in Southern and Southeastern Ohio.
It's a growth thing. It'll be evolving. We're looking at it particularly from getting established and using the core that we have through our Rotary clubs. And then eventually we'll look to get other districts involved and other clubs involved, and through our traveling team and things of that nature, expand the outreach of the program. But we're going to start with locally and then use that as the benchmark upon which we can grow the organization as we gain experience and knowledge and the operations go forward. That cover it?
Yes.
Good question.
Okay, we have a few more minutes for questions if anybody else has a question.
Okay, I have another one. Does the VA at any point interact with you, or are VA services put to another, level?
I'll start with that. We've been advised by a number of folks we've spoken with that we would want to do that, but not in the beginning. A number of folks have said that we really need to make this a partnership with the community and with corporate sponsors, and then once if we develop what we envision here, which is the registry, the symposium, the connectivity that we're looking for, and get a core group of VSOs involved, then we would see that there would be the opportunity to work from a position of strength to involve and engage where it's appropriate government agencies. Dave, do you want to add, or Skylar add to that?
Yeah, the VA is part of our VSO organization. So, I mean, we're not ignoring them or doing anything outside of their realm of operations or anything like that. We're doing it in conjunction with all of these veteran services organizations so that we can, the problem we found was so many activities are being conducted, but they're not, they're disjointed. There are several groups doing things in an isolation. And the thing that's really needed is that collaboration process that brings all of these things together. So we're not duplicating, we're not overlapping, we're not trying to all tap into the same markets. That you don't serve the veterans well that way. So our goal is to try and make sure that there's better communications, coordination, and collaboration between all of the groups that are out there seeking to serve and support the veterans. And that's the one thing that's missing.
Yeah, one of the keys, I think, is that this VetWorks Ohio is not going to deliver services itself. It's going to be primarily in support of the veteran and the VSOs to help the veteran navigate what is available to them, as opposed to being involved in direct service to the veteran like the VA would do or one of the other VSOs.
Yeah, I think shared services organization to provide that support. And we wrestled with that a little bit too. It's, you know, you kind of want to leap straight to providing service to the veterans, but really we don't want to just be another VSO. Well, what we've been told is that there's plenty of VSOs and the VA and other supports that are available. It's just, as Skylar and Dave have said, they're not collaborating, they're disjointed, they're limited in their scope. And one thing we've heard from a number of folks, veterans themselves, is that knowing how to access services and even what services are out there is a huge issue that's lacking right now. So that central registry and the ability to bring people together is a continuing theme that we heard as well.
That makes sense. Thank you.
And we did benchmarking, both us individually as well as Ohio State, with the Augusta Warrior Project, with Houston, with San Diego, to really understand what they have done. They've been doing this a lot longer and have well-established programs to understand, you know, what does work and what is needed. So I think, again, getting to the point of being that collaboration, coordination point is where the need lies in Central Ohio and Ohio in general.
Okay, we have time for one more quick question if anybody has one. If not, you know where to find Dwight, and he'll take your questions anytime. Okay, well, thank you, Dave, Skylar, and Dwight, for your presentation today. Dwight, I remember a couple of years ago at your installation dinner where you introduced this big idea to us, and you've really you and the Veterans Affairs Committee and everybody else involved taking it a long way since then. And we'll look forward to seeing your continued progress with VetWorks Ohio, and learning how we can all get involved to make it a success. So thank you for your presentation today. Next week, we will hear from our district governor, Steve Heiser. I hope that everyone can be here for that. We want to have a good showing for our district governor, so please be right back here next week, 7:40. Our quote of the week comes from Paul Harris, and I like this one because of the polarized political climate that we're in right now. Paul Harris said, "It has been the way of Rotary to focus thought upon matters in which members are in agreement, rather than upon matters in which they are in disagreement." But thank you for being here today, and see you all again next week, and have a great weekend.
Bye. Be safe.
Bye.
Thank you.